What's up, guys? Keyshawn Uchiha here. Now, I'm basically have an announcement to make. I'm going to make the remake of What If Deku was Dio Brando, and well, yeah, What If Deku was Dio Brando? But I'm going to basically do it right this time, because I have been looking at my old comments at my old videos, and one of my subscribers, which I'm not going to say his name, he already knows who he is if he remembers this. Basically was saying that he wanted to have Dio Brando, like, he wanted to have Deku with Dio Brando personality and have a good villain arc, which I get what he's saying, and I'm going to reboot it. So this is basically a reboot slash basically a restart, or you could just say a remake of What If Deku was Dio Brando. Now, how would this happen? How would he be Dio Brando? And how would he get to stay in the world? Well, we're going to have it we're gonna kind of merge the My Hero Academia with JoJo Bizarre Adventures. We're gonna put them in the same space, but it's gonna be a little different some way. Let me explain. Basically, I'll explain it like this. Basically, Deku will be born. Sorry about that, guys. Let's continue. Yeah. How would this happen? We're gonna merge the JoJo universe with My Hero Academia. Now, yeah, it's gonna be some characters well known, but they're not gonna be in the story like that, okay? Because that would be A, crazy, and B, it is just be fucking crazy. But they're gonna be in there, but not in there that much, okay? But anyways, let's get this started. So basically, we're gonna start with JoJo Bizarre Adventures after the Dio getting defeated by Jotaro. Now, after Jotaro basically whooped his ass, killed him, Dio's soul or essence haven't really died like that. I would say something quite mysterious happens. Now, after Dio, you could say, thing goes away, his power and soul thing goes somewhere else. And his stand with it goes somewhere else. Now, this is where basically Dio Brando wakes up again, opens up his eyes and wonder where is he? Where he's at, and basically this is where he's looking around and stuff, and this is where the doctor says it's a boy, which Dio Brando is basically looking, and he's like confused of where the hell he's at. This is where he's basically looking all around until he sees that the doctor hands him over to someone, and basically this is where Inko says he looks so beautiful, which this is where Dio Brando has been reincarnated. Now, this is where he's pretty much confused and saying, I was brought back to life. Which, this is where he is basically laughing, in a sense. And you could say he's making a smile as the baby, and Inko is like wondering how he's doing it, but she doesn't mind. She loves her child anyway. Now, let's do a little time skip. Now, this is where Dio is still Dio, the same Dio we know. And he's pretty much still motivated to start the plan all over again. Now, this is where pretty much Dio, which I'm just going to say Deku, which we know it's going to be Dio. Deku pretty much is, let's say like 5 years old, and he pretty much still has to stay in the world. Now, this is where the world will be basically kid-sized Deku, like you know how you seen on that one episode of JoJo Bizarre Adventure where basically Farno got turned into a kid and his stand was a little baby stand. It would be like that, not as powerful, but it's still deadly. Now, this is where pretty much Deku would be the same. Well, be the same as Dio. I have the same personality, and his first goal step is to basically find the stone mask when he gets older. But right now, he's just, going to live his life and do, whatever. Now, this is where pretty much his mom, Inko, is pretty much talking to him and saying, have a good day at school, honey. Which Dio looks at her and says, I will. And walks out the car. Basically, not even smiling or anything, just walking. That's just his demeanor. Which Inko still loves her son, but she is concerned about that emotion he does. But he walks off. Now, I should say this right now. Dio will have a very different development, but he would still have the villain development. So this is going to be a villain arc kind of thing and not like a hero thing. So keep in mind. But pretty much this is where Deku is pretty much heading back to heading into the school and stuff, and this is where he meets up with Bakugou. And Bakugou is pretty much hot headed and stuff, and let's just say Dio does not like hot headed people. This is where he pretty much walked past him, and Deku is like Bakugou is basically trying to talk to Deku, and Deku is pretty much saying, "Get away from me! I don't talk to low life." Which this is where Bakugou is saying what is with him and why he's being a jerk. Which he pretty much heads to his seat and sit down in the menacing sit. Now after all that, let's say like another week, another year passed, and Deku's a little bit older, and we're going to start the time when Bakugou unlocks his quirk. Now, this is where all the kids are unlocking their perks, and like unlocking not their perks, but their quirks. Yeah, everybody's getting the quirks, except for Dio. Well, he does get a quirk, you could say. And it's going to be a little bit OP, but just bear with me. You're going to see why. It's going to go with his 10. His stand, pretty much. Now, this is where pretty much Deku is sitting down, and he's pretty much just reading a book, minding his business, until Bakugou says, "Hey, look, Deku." Basically, he basically says, "Hey, look, nerd Deku," which, this is where Deku closes his book and looks at him with a menacing stone saying, "What is it?" Which, this is where Bakugou says, "I got an explosion quirk," which Deku says, "Okay, so what that supposed to do?" Which, this is where Bakugou says, "Well, it just means I have the best quirk around here. And also you pretty much needs to serve me because your quirk is pretty much useless, I know." Which, this is where Deku starts to smile and says, "Are you sure about that? Because I'm every second ahead of you. And if you say that one more time, I will punish you." Which Bakugou is saying, "What you say?" Which, this is where they're outside too. So this is where Bakugou's starting his quirk explosion, until Deku a little bit stops time. And he pretty much stops time and appears right behind Bakugou saying, "Bakugou, do you really want to have this fight? Only to realize that you're going to regret this." Which, this is where Bakugou is like freaked out saying, "What? How did you get behind me?" Which, this is where Deku explains to him, "Do you really want to try me?" Which Bakugou is like pissing his pants right now, saying, No, I don't want to try you." Which, this is where Deku pretty much saying, "That's what I thought." And he pretty much walks away saying, see you later, Bakugou." And he pretty much walks away. Now, after that, this is where we do another couple years, and we're gonna say, sorry about that, but this is where we're going to start the My Hero. We're gonna have the My Hero characters a little bit older, not as like looking like a pure adults, but they're gonna be a little bit older, as like having like teenager bodies, a little bit more mature teenager bodies, you could say. Now, this is where pretty much Deku would pretty much have his hair yellow instead of green, so he's gonna change his hair to yellow. Well, no, he's not gonna have his hair yellow. Well, yeah, he's gonna have his hair yellow, pretty much. But pretty much, this is where he'll have his hair yellow, um, and he will pretty much be, I would say, 18 at the most part. Well, no, 17 at the most part. Not 18. Well, fuck it, 18. Yeah, pretty much. This is where they're still in high school and stuff, and this is where Deku is doing his research on the Pillar Man mask and seeing if there's one around here, which luckily he finds one on the black market. Now, this is where pretty much he finds it, and he is buying it with cryptos, because I'm going to say Dio is a smart person, so he would find out a way how to find the Pillar Mask or like create it again. But pretty much this is where he will find it again and order it, and it will pretty much be delivered to him. This is where Deku would grab the mask and pretty much take it. But this is where he finds the red emblem thing from bloody thing. I forgot the part 2 of JoJo. You know the diamond, the medallion that. But this is where he will also have that, and the only reason why I'm going to do this is I'll explain why. One, if he becomes a vampire, he's going to be pretty much not immune to the sun, and that sun's going to pretty much be in the way. And he doesn't want that to be in his way. And two, I think ultimate life form, Dio will be pretty good. And I'm also going to tell you what Deku got as a quirk. So he's going to be busted over for this video. But pretty much, let's get started. Again, pretty much this is where he will put the medallion in there, and he'll pretty much put his blood on the mask and pretty much put it over his face. This is where he will open up the shade, and he's taking a 50-50 chance at this to see if it will work or not. But pretty much he will put the mask over his face, and he will pretty much start screaming, which as he's screaming, the sun is pretty much shining on him, but it's shining on the medallion. This is where he does a whole scream and a flashlight comes in. Now this is where the mask falls off and Dio, or should I say Deku, is on the floor pretty much smiling with vampire teeth saying, I did it. Which this is where Deku is pretty much the ultimate life form, but with the stand in the world. Now this is where Inko pretty much knocks and open up and asks, hey Mizuko, are you okay? Which Deku is looking at his mom saying, oh, I'm more than that, mother, I'm fine. Which he's smiling, which she pretty much says, oh, okay, well, food is almost ready, which he pretty much says, thank you, mother. And she closes back the door. This is where Deku looks at his hand, and his hand starts transforming and pretty much turning into all sorts of things. And this is where he pretty much sees a couple more minutes in the future. Now, he used to see 5 seconds. That's why he's seen the 5 seconds of seeing Bakugou throwing an explosion at him randomly, and he gets hit by it. So he saw it. He saw what he can do, and now his quirk will give him a headache. But since he's the ultimate life form and a vampire, it won't even hurt his head no more. So now he can see as how long he wants in the future. And since he's a vampire again, he has infinite time stop. So Deku's pretty much busted. Now, let's continue then. Pretty much the next day. Sorry about that. Pretty much the next day, Deku heads straight to the high school. And this is going to be the start of anime, you could say. Now, this is where... Well, no, not really the start of anime. This is where Deku starts heading back to high school. To school the next day. He pretty much sits down smiling. And his hair is much more longer now. In a sense. This is where he's pretty much just looking out in the window smiling. And he's pretty much just like enjoying the day. This is where Bakugou comes in again. And he's pretty much saying, hey, nerd. Which this is where Deku, of course, looks at him and says, I've already told you that you can't beat me. Why are you messing with me? Which Bakugou is feeling his shit today, thinking, like, since he trained, he's on Deku's shit. So he's pretty much saying, this time I'm definitely going to beat you. So, shall we have this fight? Which Deku says, if you say so. Which they pretty much go out on the rooftop, which Bakugou's lackeys is joining him so they can jump him. So this is where Deku heads up and Bakugou's lackeys with him. And this is where also, I'm going to say, like, a couple of students come in to see what's happening. And they realize it's a fight going on. Now, on the rooftop, this is where a bunch of kids, like, start circling around. And begins to, like, saying, fight, fight, fight. Now, this is where Bakugou sends out his lackeys firsthand. And this is where Deku can already see the future. So he's like, so, it doesn't matter what you do. I'm going to defeat all of y'all. Which, this is where the first lackey has a quirk where he can basically make gravity, like make someone like be heavy to gravity. So before he can like touch the ground and make gravity heavy for Deku, Deku will appear right behind him and pretty much just like karate chop him on the back of the neck, not killing him, because trust me, he's not gonna waste his time on a small fry. I mean, I know Dio Brando will kill small fry with quick ease, but he's not wasting his time with them because he's not trying to go into hiding and all that shit. He's still making a big plan to reach over heaven. But pretty much after that, this is where Deku already seen the future. So the other lackey will have a quirk where he basically have spider webs. He can shoot spider webs at people and wrap them around them, and pretty much. So, and yes, he has 4 arms. So this is where the other lackey will shoot a spider web on Deku and pretty much trap him, which Deku can't move. And this is where the lackey's about to jump on Deku, says, "Huh, you're mine now, nerd," and about to throw multiple punches at him. This is where Deku pretty much just says, "Oh yeah," and he pretty much disappears. Which the lackey is confused of where he went. Which this is where Deku is on top of the rooftop and saying, "You really think you have a chance against me?" Which this is where the lackey is trying to do it again until Deku appears right in front of him and just straight up punch him in the face, sending him flying back. Now the last lackey pretty much has a quirk where he can pretty much whoever he touches pretty much their bones pretty much turn, well no, whoever he touches, their body pretty much they start to get dizzy and they start wobbling and stuff. So the other lackey's about to touch Deku. Deku grabs his hand and crushes his wrist, saying, "Huh, you think that quirk of yours that can make people dizzy and wobble everywhere is useful? Useless." Which he pretty much throws the lackey through the fence, like pretty much throwing him against the fence, hurting him very badly, making him fall to the ground. Now this is where Deku looks at Bakugou and says, "So Bakugou, will you come at me then?" Which this is where Deku will start teleporting left and right, which Bakugou is like freaked out because Deku is just getting closer and closer, but he's like, instead of like walking like straight forward, he's teleporting. So it's scaring him. This is where Baku would throw a massive explosion right at Deku, which Deku would pretty much just like stop time, and he would pretty much appear right in front of Bakugou and punch him right in the stomach. Not punching right through him, but punch him right in the stomach. And he pretty much go back and says, like back up a little farther and says, "Time resume." And pretty much Bakugou gets sent flying to the fence and coughing up a little bit of saliva and passing out. Which Deku would pretty much walk away and say, "Useless, useless, useless." Which he's walking downstairs and everybody just doesn't know what the fuck just happened because the next minute they seen Deku there and now they just seeing him teleport everywhere. So they thinking he has the teleporting quirk, but no, he's just stopping time left and right. But yeah, pretty much after that, Deku heads home and Inko asks Deku that did Deku get in a fight today, which Deku says, "Yeah, I did. It was with Baku," which Inko says, "Why are you beating up your childhood friend?" Which Deku looks at her and says, "He's not my childhood friend. And second of all, he tried me first of challenging me." Which this is where she knows that he's not lying with his serious tone and says, "Okay, Deku, but just make sure not to get in trouble again." Which Deku looks at his mom and says, and walks upstairs. Now, let's get to the real start anime. Now, next day, this is the final weekend stuff. It's a summer vacation, you could say. Now, this is where the teacher... Oh, sorry about that. But this is where the teacher will pretty much come in and pretty much says, "So, y'all guys want to be a hero?" And he said, "Oh, what I'm kidding. All y'all want to be a hero," and throws up the paper and everybody's excited and stuff. This is where Bakugou will talk his shit saying like, "Oh, none of y'all doesn't have a good quirk, so I don't know why y'all all being excited." Which Deku is pretty much smiling and just, well, not really smiling. He's minding his own business, reading a book and smiling because he found a good book to read. And he's pretty much saying, this is good. Now, this is where pretty much the teacher reads the paper, and the two paper is pretty much is two people who wants to do the UA. Bakugou and Deku. Which, this is where they look at Deku, and they're pretty much saying, yeah, he can pretty much get qualified to be a hero one day. Which Bakugou is pissed off that Deku did it. Now, after that, this is where Deku is heading home for school until pretty much let me see. Yeah, pretty much Bakugou stops him and says, "Do you really think you can become a hero, nerd?" Which Deku pretty much look at him and says, "I'm not becoming a hero." Which he walks away from Deku, which I mean from Bakugou, sorry, Bakugou, and pretty much Bakugou looks at Deku with confusion, saying, "What? Not becoming a hero?" Which this is where he's trying to figure out what he mean by that, and pretty much Deku walks away. Now Deku will of course take the shortcut from the same as Rojo Cannon and pretty much walk at the bridge. Now, as he's walking under the bridge, this is where Sludge Villain will pretty much come and try to grab onto Deku. It's a Deku, like I said, can see it, and he grabs the Sludge Villain, pretty much freezing the Sludge Villain into ice. This is where he would pretty much just like do the same thing in Phantom Blood and crush the Sludge Villain into multiple pieces. And pretty much just walking away. Now, this is where, of course, All Might will come in, but he doesn't see Deku. And yeah, Deku is pretty much already gone. But All Might sees is a bunch of pieces of ice, and like you could say the Sludge Villain is shattered pieces. And All Might's trying to figure out who the hell can possibly do this. But yeah, pretty much after that, this is where Deku would head home to his house, saying that he's home. Which this is where Inko will ask how was his day at school, which he would pretty much say, good. And he pretty much heads in his room. Now, this is part one of What If. Yeah, now this is part one remake of What If Deku was Dio Brando. If you like, let's get this up to 30 likes and I'll do a part two. But other than that, make sure to, give that like, give a subscribe button, share this with your friends. Also, give me your ideas. And also share me if you want me to add something to the part two. But other than that, my name is Keyshawn Chia. Thanks for watching, and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.